We're good. So, Carl, we're what 6 days out from the first tournament of the season, I believe. If my math is correct, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 days.
We're inside of a week.
We definitely are,
Incredible.
and it is incredible. And what's also incredible is the fact that we had Chris Leslie on last week from Big
Yeah.
Bass USA, who informed everybody that we're getting 10% for those who registered after January, 10% off all boats. For those who registered in January, 15% off all boats.
If they're a
And then
member,
if they're a member, if they're a member. And in addition to that, he's our Angler of the Year sponsor, and he's providing $1,000 to whoever walks away with the belt.
and that's going to happen at the year-end event, Battle
Yes,
of the Best.
that's it.
But there's points that can be had there at Battle of the Best, a 2-day event in September.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the best, I there are only a few names that come to mind, and I only heard of this individual prior to, through social media, prior to our call today. But just being able to speak with him behind the stage for a few minutes, I understand why he's such a great angler, such a great leader. I'm talking about none other than President Aaron Fetterman. Aaron, welcome to the call. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Presidente. Is that right?
Yeah,
El Presidente?
Yeah. There's some that say that, yes.
Get it right, Evan. Get it right, man.
I'm sorry. El Presidente. Oh,
respect on his name.
Listen, whenever I see. Whenever I see.
I was just going to say, we were talking behind the stage, and my face is definitely not the, yes, they call me El Presidente, but when you're talking about the face of the club, those are the other guys in the leadership group. They are out there pushing the buttons and figuring stuff out, getting stuff done. I'm behind the scenes, and I like the rules side of it. That's my thing.
MAKBF, if you guys don't know, they're the OGs in Maryland and Delaware, for that matter, right? I mean, they're the
they fished with Delaware Paddle Sports as sponsored the series for a long time, and MAKBF has always done their finale in Delaware. It's changed a little over the last few years. We now have a tournament of champions, but we still pay homage to Delaware Paddle Sports and do at least one weekend where we're in Delaware doing Delaware things.
That's cool, man. That's where I got my start, was MAKBF. It was almost by accident. I got bumped from a FLW event. It was there. I can't remember exactly when it was, but I was doing good that year, and I was third on the list, and I didn't get on. I didn't make the cut. So I was determined to fish somewhere, and I had a brand new kayak. And I said, you know what? I wonder if there's kayak tournaments. And I started Googling, and then I somehow found MAKBF, and it was on a Friday night. And I said, well, I wonder if I have enough time to sign up. And it was at midnight that night. And I was like, got my money out, boom, boom, boom. I was in there, didn't have none of the right equipment, nothing. I didn't know what I was doing, didn't know all the rules, but I was determined just to jump in, cruise around, toss the rod around, try to catch a few fish, and I didn't catch anything that day, but I had so much fun. And I learned so much.
I tell you what, the competitive nature in people will get you to do crazy things like just at midnight join a kayak tournament for the next day.
Yes. My friends thought I was crazy. What are you doing to that kayak, man? But hey, you gotta try to understand it. Once you try it, it's over. It's over. And don't catch a fish. It's over.
Yeah, I got a funny story how I got into kayak fishing. Well, it's not a funny story, but how I got into kayak fishing. I didn't catch my first largemouth bass until 2017. I had always smallmouth fished because we have a cabin on a body of water up in Pennsylvania that's where it's there, smallmouth. So I've caught lots of smallmouth, but I had never caught a largemouth. My brother passed away suddenly in 2017 and 2016. He was an avid fisherman. He fished for everything, and he fished out of a kayak. And then the following year after he had passed, his wife gave me his kayak, and that's how it started for me. 2017, started fishing out of a kayak. Since then, have kind of grown up into on that side of it. I don't ever want to go to the boat side, not because I don't think the boat guys are great. I just, kayak community's it's a different beast. Everybody that hangs out, I've never come across an individual on the water where I was like, well, that was dirty or whatever. You know what I mean? It's always been the community has always been a great community to be involved with. And as long as it stays that way, I'm forever a kayak fisherman.
Yeah, I second that, Aaron. I second it. Yep. Boy, you got some people timing in.
They definitely are. I mean, I'm seeing things about people are asking to tell the story about the tank. I'm hearing that instead of El Presidente, we should be referring to you as Hog Boss. I mean, we definitely want to get to the story. And for those who don't know about the story, I mean, I think Aaron broke the internet during which tournament was this?
It was the Hobie BOS Harris Chain. If you guys aren't familiar with the Hobie BOS, it's a great run organization. It's a national trail. They travel all over the country. AJ and Steve do a great job with that tournament. And it was the first one of this year. And I love fishing Florida, and I only get the opportunity really to go down there when Hobie's down there. So I was very lucky this year to hook into a slaunch.
Hey, if he didn't break the internet, he got it limping. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a fact.
It was huge. You guys should have heard the conversation we had before we came on. He was really kind of spilling the beans there, but Evan had to remind us that we need to save it for when we go live.
Yeah, we're having such a great conversation backstage, but let's give the people what they want. Can we kick it off with the story, and then we can get into the rules and everything like that?
Sure. Well, it actually starts there last year. Trey Leach of Innovative Sportsman, he's my travel buddy. He goes. We travel a lot together. We fished last year on Beauclair, and we went out Thursday. We fished all of Beauclair, and the fish just weren't in the same stage that they were in last year. So the year prior, I had gone to Griffin, and Trey had pre-fished Griffin this year. So he was able to get into a couple. We went back on Friday to Lake Griffin, and it's a marsh. It's a big marsh. I mean, Lake Griffin itself is big, but there's a marsh that connects to Lake Griffin. It's also considered Lake Griffin. So we decided to pre-fish there, and I happened to run over a bed or right next to a bed, and I scooped 2 fish off of it. And when I looked down, I saw her swim, and I was like, that's the biggest bass I've ever seen in my life. I mean, legitimately, I was just like, I just waypointed and kept going. I didn't even turn around to look again. I didn't stop. I didn't try to see anything. I just hit my waypoint, and I said, I'm gonna come back in the morning. If she's still there, great. If not, then we'll move on. But when we get back, like Saturday morning was the first day of the tournament. I was telling Evan it was the last weekend of duck hunting season down there. And where we launched, there's a lot of ducks and duck boats. And legitimately, there was probably 100 duck boats all throughout this marsh with their blinds set up and decoys everywhere. And it was like World War III. Gunshots going off everywhere. So close that bird pellets were falling into your kayak as they were shooting birds out of the sky. I mean, the guys behind me were very nice. They waited until the birds weren't directly between me and them before they shot. But yeah, it was insane. I mean, absolutely insane. But when I got there, it was still, the sun had just started coming up, so I obviously couldn't see her on the bed. However, every time she moved, the water swirled. It was shallow, but the whole area swirled. So I knew she was still in there. So I started pitching in. I didn't catch the buck. I hooked the buck and got him to the net, but I did not get him in, unfortunately. And he was probably an 18 or 19. The buck was. So I kept pitching in there. I caught another 12-inch. I'm guessing one that was just swimming by or near the bed. And finally she ate off of my rod and line were set up right, but I was using a offset Ned rig hook. I mean, it was a stout hook. It was an aftermarket hook, but that's what I was using I would try to get a small enough hook to where if she just lifted it up to take it off the bed, I would still be able to get a good hook set on her. And I put the hammer down, and that was the end of the story. And looking back, I didn't realize the magnitude of the situation. I didn't know that it was a once in a lifetime fish. I got in my mind, I'm thinking I'm fishing a tournament. I need to get a good picture on the board. So I got that. And then she was so heavy, taking a selfie with her and so big, I couldn't even get her all in there. But looking back, I should have called somebody over to try to take a picture or get a weight or something like that. Unfortunately, I did not. But then, I mean, I don't know, maybe an hour later, AJ put it on the internet, and that's it. That's all she wrote. My phone was blowing up, comments everywhere. I mean, it really did go crazy.
That's amazing.
That's what I woke up to.
Isn't it a record?
Yeah, it's the Hobie BOS record. They've been around for 6 years, and this is the biggest fish so far. And I thought it was going to get broke the next week because 2 weeks later they were in Texas, and I was like, it'll probably get broke there, but it didn't. It's still good.
So did you get anything for that?
I got Big Bass for the tournament, and it was $500.
Whew. Man, it's a $500 weight point.
That's right.
That's a fact.
That's absolutely right.
Man, talk about it.
It was great. It was great. I mean, it was a once in a lifetime fish. I wish I had got better pictures. Everybody wanted to know what the weight was. My scale wasn't working. It just was a situation that in my head I was focused on the tournament, and that's the way it was.
Well,
I think that fish was the story of the tournament. We don't even know who won.
No, in my mind, you won. Yeah.
It didn't even matter at that point. It was just like, man, did you see that fish?
It was a behemoth. But hey, I mean, we're here to talk about the tournament season, specifically to talk about the rules, which Aaron has a lot of experience with, and we're grateful, of course, to have you on as well. Means a lot. MAKBF, you all are industry standard. You guys do a lot of things right. And honestly, I don't know of anything that you do wrong. But could you help educate us and our audience, Aaron, on the rules for CPR, for kayak bass fishing in general? We mirrored our rules after you all. So if you fish an MAKBF event, we abide by the same rules as MAKBF. Carl, did I miss anything?
No, you got it exactly right, because we have joint tournaments with MAKBF this year. In fact, we have 3 joint tournaments with MAKBF, 2 coming up in April, the 20th and the 21st on the Potomac River. And then we're going to follow that up in May. I think it's May 5th. Can't remember. There you go, my man.
Yep.
May Cinco de Mayo. We got May 5th.
That's it.
We have another one with you guys up on the Upper Bay. And I was just on the Upper Bay Saturday, and I experienced the Slab Fest out there. We had 21.95, basically 22 pounds between 9 and 11 o'clock.
Wow. That's a great day.
Incoming tide.
That's a great day.
Smallies, largies. I mean, the first 3 casts was a 6 1/4.
Wow.
So that woke us up.
I'm sure.
And if you've been on our Facebook page and you've been following how we've grown on the page, and you might have seen a couple videos where I shot one from Tidings, and I said, when you come out here to the Upper Bay, it's one of my favorite places to fish, but you never know what you're going to get on the other side of the line, because it could be a monster at any time, and you got to be ready. I would definitely beef up your tackle when you go up there. I would not go with any 6-pound tests.
Even if you could get into a giant snakehead in there too. I mean, there's some giant snakehead in there.
Yes, you have to be ready to
both the Potomac and the Upper Bay have giant snakehead, and they're just fun to catch. I don't like catching them in bass tournaments, but they're fun to catch.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, the upper bay, right, like the flats, that also connects to the Susquehanna, to the Susky, is
Yes.
that
Yes.
correct? Off the Conowingo, coming off the dam?
Well, the Conowingo's up further. The Conowingo's up past the first dam there. Once you go past
Okay. Okay.
um Holtwood. Holtwood is the top dam. It's the I can't remember. Conowingo's in between two dams, but
Yeah.
if you can get to the first dam from the upper bay
Okay.
off the
Good to know.
Susquehanna.
Yeah.
And that's
guys,
why you have the flats, because it's supplying fresh water
Mhm.
directly into the flats 24/7, and that's why you have such big grass beds. And I don't know why the fish are bigger up there. The Potomac is coming, but for a long time the Upper Bay had the bigger fish, more bigger fish to me. A 25-pound bag was nothing on the Upper Bay, but you do that on the Potomac, you smoked them, you did something. But I think a 23-pound bag won on the Potomac a couple weeks ago on the team event. So the Potomac is getting right up there too as far as size, man. I mean, they're coming.
For sure. And what I like about the tidal water is they're always moving. You know what I mean? You got to find them in order to get to them because they're always moving.
Always changing. The conditions are always changing. The tide is always changing. And you really have to be a student of the game. You have to be on top of your game when you're out there, because it's a lot of variables that come into play. But it's
For
fun.
sure.
Sidebar. Bunky wants you to know that he loves you, Aaron.
I love him too.
There we go. And I'm guessing. What? This is from Bunky.
I've launched there. Yeah, lipidum.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll shoot you right onto the Susky.
Got you. So the Conowingo is the impoundment between the Conowingo Dam and Holtwood Dam. Okay. Good to know.
And
man.
you
We got
guys, MAKBF has an event out on the Conowingo, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
this year we are. Matter of fact, on the 5th is the Upper Bay, but on the 4th, which is a Saturday, it's on the Conowingo. We're making a weekend out of it. Harford County is sponsoring one of those events for us, and kicked in a little extra money for the anglers. And our first event is the same weekend as yours, except for it's on Saturday. So if guys get done fishing the Juniata and want to go fish with you guys on the 7th, that would be great. But
right.
our Juniata event is the Juniata River Valley Visitors Bureau kicked in some extra money for the anglers for that one. We're already at 50 plus for attendance for that. So if you guys want to come up and do some river fishing, catch some smallmouth.
I will be up there for Conowingo. I'm gonna do
Yeah, that'll work too. Our Conowingo event a couple of years ago, smallmouth won that event. Second place was largemouth, but the first place was smallmouth. He had like 95 inches of smallmouth. So I love the Conowingo because it's got such a variety of what to do there.
It does. I like Conowingo too a lot. That's a special place for me because that's the first place that I got a win. Was on.
Nice.
It was a boater event. So I love that place now. Before it kicked my butt, but
Right.
yeah, that's a nice spot, man. That's a real nice spot.
Well, as far as rule goes, do you guys have questions about rules, or you want me to go over the basics? How would you like to handle this?
I know back a month ago or so, I put a post out there, and it kind of set a little barn fire going off.
For sure.
With the difference in rules between KBF, Bassmasters, and then you got your local clubs that got their own set of rules. And everybody's different when it comes to touching that fish. And
You're absolutely right.
It's confusing.
100%. I feel like there should be some sort of standardization between everybody. I feel like if there was, and this is just my own opinion, that if there was some sort of governing body, you know what I'm saying, that was in charge of making rules for kayak fishing, and then of course your locals could tweak them here or there, but it's it can be very confusing. And if you're not reading the rules for the club you're fishing in, you're probably going to break a rule because it may be different than the club that you fished in last year, or it's different than the national tour that maybe came in last year, or whatever the situation would be. With our events specifically, ours and yours, the catch board, has to be the orientation of the fish. The belly needs to be facing the angler. The whole fish needs to be seen. The mouth needs to be closed. We allow pinching the tail, but you can't cover the tip of the tail. If I can't see the end of the tail and it's not flat on the board, then it doesn't count. So yes, you can pinch, and no, there's no distance to go towards the tail. But if you're covering any part of that tail up at the end that I can't see the whole tail touching the board, then it's a DQ'd fish. You can't touch anywhere on the eye, and you can't touch anywhere on the lip that's touching the board. That's usually my best practices when I'm judging fish. If you need to use a hand to hold it down to get your first couple pictures, I would suggest doing that, because it does take practice to get proficient at catch and release, catch photo release, because the fish gets a little antsy, or I know I've lost winning fish off of the board to go back in the water that didn't count. I have, and I know other people that have. I have a ritual where every single time I catch a fish, I put it on a donkey leash, I put it back in the water, except for that really big one, because I was concerned that she might take my donkey leash. That didn't go back in the water. She stayed right with me the whole time. But every other time, I put it on a donkey leash, I put it in the water, I get my catch board out, I set it up, I make sure my identifier's in the middle of the board, I pull my camera out, I get it set up, ready to go, I pull the fish out of the water. Usually, it relaxes them smidge to go back in the water, and then you pull them back out, they kind of get relaxed. And if you can take the picture inside the gunnels, it's a great move. If you can stage your net so that if it does flop off, the net catches it, that's a great move. But you can't restrain the fish with live fish grips or anything like that. You can use your hand as long as you're not covering the tail, the eye, or the lip touching the bump board. All those things you need to be able to see to judge the fish properly.
Now I know the tail thing sparked some conversation, because some people believe you should not. That's like a holy thing. You do not touch that tail. KBF.
I can tell you where that rule came from. There was a guy in Texas cut the tail off of a largemouth bass and would use his hand and put the tail that he cut and give himself extra inches. That's where that rule came from. There's always a reason behind a rule, but that's where that rule came from. And if you looked at those pictures, you knew something was wrong with those fish, because the tail was extraordinarily long. Like from the part where the body to the tail goes, it was just super long. Like none of the pictures made sense, but you would have never thought that somebody would have done that. But now that somebody has done it, we look out for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So in my opinion, I think that there was a time for that rule. I just don't think it's there anymore.
So what's the procedure if somebody tries to do that? I'm pretty sure nobody in CRM KBF is going to try this. But what's the procedure if something like that, somebody dared to make that happen?
Oh, they would just get. It depends on when it was caught. If there was money involved, we would seek restitution back for the money, so that the person behind them didn't get out, screwed out of money. We would definitely let other organizations know, hey, this guy cheated. He's not welcome to fish with us. He's banned from whatever. And really, that's the only thing you can do. I mean, as far as if you catch them before you pay them, that's the best. That's obviously the best way to go, because then you just ban them and disqualify them. But unfortunately, when you get people's money involved,
other people are paying too. They're pissed.
They'll do well when there's money involved. People will do some crazy things to make money.
Yeah. So basically, getting back to this tail, you can touch the tail, but you can't cover it up.
Correct.
Now that's a gray area, right? Because it's subjective. I mean, you can go right up to the line, and I'm not covering the tail, but most of the tail is covered. How do you
Well,
feel about that?
um, if you look at the rules, we have a very specific picture that shows a do not touch line on the tail, and it's about halfway down the tail. If you can't pinch the tail from the base and you're all the way down the tail, it's going, and again, that's why we have judges, because it's going to be a discretionary thing, whether it's going to be to the discretion of the judge to decide, okay, he's too close to the tail or he's too close to the end of the tail where he's covering it and I can't see it. I would say at the end of the day, it really just depends on where the tail, where you can see the tail as a judge.
All right, now talk to me about the eye. Now, what's the reason behind that rule? Why you can't cover the eye with your hand?
Because the whole point of catch, photo, release is to save the fish, is to make the fish. It's a conservation thing. So if you see a fish floating down the river and you grab it out of the water and put it on your board, you didn't catch that fish. You just grabbed it out of the water. It was dead beforehand. The reason you have to be able to see the eye is because most of the time, if a fish dies, that's the first place you can tell that a fish is dead from, is from the eye.
All right, that's well explained. Doesn't get any more clear than that. All right, now talk to me about the gill. The gill.
Now, I would like to add too that if you have a glassy eye or something's wrong with that fish's eye on that side of the fish, because that's been known to happen too, your best bet is to take a video of you taking the fish off of the board, putting it in the water, and watch it swim away. That way we know it was released alive. That's I would say if there's any discrepancies there at all, because I've caught fish with no eyes. So what are you gonna do there? You gotta take.
It's real. That could happen. That
for sure.
Lost a battle. This is from Bunky,
That's right.
but I think he's just sharing. He's lost a 1/4 inch mouse. Yeah, I know. I lost a couple lost a 1/4 inch a couple times last season like that.
Yeah,
I can't read it. Yeah. I got my contacts in, but I surely can't see what that says.
Oh, he's saying I've had so many fish losses. He's lost a 1/4 inch because of weird mouse and not touching the bump line over the years. This is only gripe.
Yep, I agree. Unfortunately, the only way to make it fair across the board is to just say the mouth has to be completely closed. If it's a deformity in the fish and you can't get the mouth closed, there has to be deduction. It's just, and that does happen 100%. Bunky's on point with that. It has happened before where, a fish has a boo-boo lip or somebody has just ripped the snot out of that thing prior and split their lips up and you just can't get their mouth closed.
Kenny G had a fish with a short top lip. So
as long as the bottom, as long as the mouth is closed and the lips are touching, I would count that as closed. Like if it had a short top lip but was closed.
Yeah, I caught one Saturday. They had a deformed top jaw, 4-pounder. Yeah, it can happen. But one more thing, getting back to this eye real quick. What if you didn't mean to, but maybe your pinky kind of slipped onto the eye? You can still see the eye, but your pinky is definitely touching the eye. Is that a penalty?
Yeah, no, I would DQ that fish. I would ask for a different picture.
Okay. And if they can't provide a different picture.
We actually had a situation where somebody's rudder, somebody had foot steering for their motor. And you know how it's got the cables that come out the side? Well, his bump board was underneath of that cable. That cable covered the eye of his fish. And we asked for a different picture, but it's very explicit in the rules.
How long does someone have to submit that alternate photo?
Good question.
Oh, they have until photo submission deadline. Like if you don't, I know a lot of guys that don't even check their phone. They just submit fish and set it down, or they don't submit till the end of the day. But as long as you submit before the photo submission deadline, then it's a good picture.
Okay, so your tournament director is contacting individuals on tournament day if a fish looks off. Is that how you
It
all are doing it?
depends. No, well, it depends. Usually, I won't contact unless it's a bigger fish, something that's going to make a difference in the tournament. I do try to put in the notes that if there's a question on why the fish was either deducted or DQ'd, and you have a question on it, feel free to contact the tournament director. But it's very difficult to go out, and we don't run into it a whole lot unless, again, like I said, we have 24 certified rookies this year with us. Some of them I know for a fact have not kayaked tournament fished before. So I know there's going to be questions, but unfortunately, we as a leadership team, me as a tournament director, I just don't have the time to judge all of the fish and then call everybody that has an issue. Yeah. But I don't have any trouble if you call me explaining what the issue is so that you know next time.
What about identical fish? I have a friend who caught two of the same fich.
Don't go there.
Don't go there. It happens. I mean, it happens. You know, we a couple of years ago, I remember the top three, second and third place, both caught the same fish. Now, somebody else was judging those fish, and at that time, I was only looking at the people that made the money to verify their fish, and I had noticed. So I immediately contacted them and asked them, "Hey, did you catch this fish in this?" That was actually back during COVID. We back before COVID, we were doing everything virtually. We couldn't do anything in person, so I called them. We were doing our award show from Bill Bonini's basement. What's funny?
I'm reading Josh's comments.
Yeah.
What did he say? I
can't
read it.
Dan Evans bringing up old stuff on Carl.
Carl's my friend who
happened to me. That happened to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I remember reading about it. It was a different organization, and but if I recall correctly, you didn't find out till later, right? It wasn't like during the tournament hours.
All right. Well, since we're going there, I'm gonna go there.
All right, go. No, I'm just not saying names.
I got it all on video. Shameless plug. Agent Win Outdoors on YouTube. It's up there. It's almost 90,000 views, and it's called Disqualified. And basically, I caught the same fish twice in the tournament. I caught him at 7 o'clock, and then I caught him again at 2 o'clock. And I got all the releases videoed except for the last one because my GoPro died. Mm-hmm. But all 4 fish previous to that were released. You see it all on video. And that one has triggered such a response because a lot of people, I mean, there's 2 sides of it. I mean, as a tournament director now, I can kind of see how this could be. I could be in that situation trying to judge somebody else that it happened to. It's tough. But, you know, it happened. I had to suck it up. I mean, the fish look the same, but if you go back and you look at the comments, everybody doesn't agree with that. They say, "Oh, I don't think that fish is the same." I think they're pretty similar. But it's hard to tell when you're in the heat of battle. This fish looks
for sure. And I agree with you 100%. There's a couple things that I would like to say in reference to that. Number one, submit all your fish, because if something happens, then it's automatically going to bring a called fish in. So that's not to say you had multiple fish. I'm just saying in an instance that you're catching, that you're on them, just submit them all. The tournament management system will take care of the calling part. So just submit them. That's number one. Number two, and some people don't know this, but if you get into TourneyX to judge a fish, it has a magnifying glass that you can blow. Like, not only can I put the magnifying glass over the fish, I can get onto my computer and then stretch the screen out too inside that magnifying glass. So I can get deep into the scale pattern if I need to. It's usually very easy to tell different fish fairly quickly from tails, mouths, eyes. Those are the three big ones. Then you can start to get into lateral lines. The problem with getting into lateral lines is the shading may be different throughout the day. I mean, really, it could be dark one in the morning and then lighter at night, but the scale patterns are going to be the same. So, like I said, a couple of years ago, we had an issue where two guys, and it was the same. It was this time of year, early in the year, and that's normally when it happens. They're on beds. You know what I mean? So you weren't fishing the bed, but you happen to catch the same fish twice, and it just happens. And in the rules, you can't do that. So if it does happen, I feel like if a tournament director doesn't contact you immediately and be like, hey, you check, because that's what I did. I called and I was like, check these two fish and tell me if they're the same. I let the angler tell me. I knew they were the same, but I wanted him to look so that it wasn't looking like I was forcing it on him. You check these two fish, you tell me if they're the same. And both of the people that I was talking to were like, yeah, it's the same fish. So, but they had an opportunity because it was before photo submission time to upload either fish that they hadn't uploaded, which they should have, because now it would have just called out. But it was, we caught it enough time, but you as a tournament director, and that's where we were chatting behind stage about being a director and fishing your own event. It's very difficult if you have a large tournament. It just gets hard. There's a lot of things that a tournament director has to do, set up for awards. You know, my competitive nature, if I'm even close to winning, I don't want to come off the water early so that I can go set up for award. I want to fish until the last minute because I know the next cast could be a giant. So, it's not for everybody, but you know, as long as you're explaining what you're doing and going through it, you can fish your own events. But when you start to get into 20 or plus and you're trying to judge fish all day long, and if you can't be prompt with it, it kind of stinks for the angler too if they had something wrong and they can't rectify it because of the judging was too late.
Gotcha.
Yeah. In my situation, it was a little bit different because the tournament was over, and this was like 3 days later. You know,
see, that's tough.
It went from
like, I feel like if somebody else caught it and protested it, a tournament director should have caught it first. It shouldn't have gone 3 days. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's just my opinion. And
it's I know guys.
But we have the same thing. We have a 24-hour, like, we don't pay guys until 24 hours later, just for that reason, because
things can change.
Things can change.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron, can I ask for a favor?
Sure.
Can we get a bit of coaching? So, you know, this is our first year, and MAKBF has been doing this at a high level for a while. I mean, you guys have some of the best anglers in the area, and we've been blessed with having a few of them join CRM. But when it comes to running a phenomenal event, what would you say are the must-haves? Like, what do you have to do to run an event really, really well?
I would say you need a
help.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely need help. No way I do this by myself. No way. I mean, it's so much. It's so much to make a successful series. I love that you guys are starting out and you're cutting your teeth and you're figuring it out, and that's great. To have $1,000 for your angler of the year for the first year is awesome. That's amazing that you guys went out and sought the sponsors like that. It's awesome. Having help is huge. It's absolutely huge, and not just having help, but having help from people that you trust, and having help from people that have different backgrounds, social media backgrounds, selling backgrounds, organizational backgrounds. You know, if you can get a team together of guys that you would trust to not be at a tournament, and that everything would go swimmingly without any hiccups at all. If you have a guy that you trust to go to sponsors and tell a sponsor, this is what you'll get from us, and then we deliver on that, is huge. So that would be my first thing. I would say get a team of absolutely phenomenal people, even if they're not anglers. They don't even have to be anglers, just people to help you run your series. I would say don't get discouraged, because for every 10,000 people you ask to be a sponsor, you're going to get 2 people that say yes. So it's a lot of repetitive. I'm no good at it. I know my weaknesses, and selling is that's definitely not my strong point. I have some guys that are very good at selling, and that's not me. So I would say don't get discouraged. I would say continue to try to grow with a great community and a great attitude, and just continue doing what you guys are doing. I mean, you're partnering with good clubs. You're figuring it out, and I think you guys are doing a great job.
Appreciate it.
Definitely appreciate that.
Appreciate it, man. But you guys are killing it right now. You guys are. You're the.
Yeah, I got a whole team. I told you.
Yeah.
I got a whole behind the scenes. These guys are putting their I can't thank them enough. They're putting their heart and soul into our series, and I mean, just to boast a smidge, if you guys don't mind, I mean, we have 92 registered anglers right now. We have 50 plus registered for our first event. We have 24 rookies coming into this year. I mean, and that's all because I have guys pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, almost sickeningly pushing it. Instagram, Facebook, those guys are putting the hammer down, and we've got some really, really great sponsors this year backing us, and we really want them to get a return on investment. Something that we've never tapped into before is visitors bureaus, and
that's interesting.
We've got some decent money from visitors bureaus this year, and it's been
excellent.
monetary sponsors are very hard to come by, very hard. So to get $1,000 for your angler a year is amazing.
Yes, we can't thank Chris Leslie over at Big Bass USA enough. Shout out to Chris.
Yeah, definitely. But also, listen, you guys fish Juniata on the 6th, right?
Yeah.
I saw I followed Jake Harshman, and I think him and Trey Leach were out there just catching slaps in practice.
The Juniata is going to be that's where they go. That's where the big girls go to spawn. So it's that time of the year where they start pushing up through the Juniata, and we are concerned because there's a ton of water. So we got some contingency. Ton of rain coming. So the flow is a concern as of right this minute. But we have some contingency programs, and we're really hoping that if the rain stops Wednesday night, by Saturday we should be good to go anyway. So, but that's part of, like we were talking, that's part of running a good series, is having a plan in place when things go bad, because they sometimes do go bad, especially if you're talking about river fishing, because it's just unpredictable.
Yeah, I saw that MVKBA had to make adjustments on the fly for their first tournament on Lake Anna.
Yeah.
I think they rescheduled it for this weekend, actually, for both days.
Yeah,
so
they sure did. Matter of fact, we have some guys that are fishing the Juniata that had registered to fish Lake Anna and are driving all the way to Lake Anna from the Juniata on Sunday to fish. They're hardcore though. I don't understand them.
I think I know who you're talking about.
We've got some comments coming in. So Bunky is saying that he wants to know what the approved measuring board is for all events. Can you speak to that?
We allow any catch board, the Catch X, the original Catch, which are metal boards, and then the Catch Carbonite, which is a plastic board.
Mm-hmm.
So we allow all 3 boards that Catch make as approved measuring devices.
Awesome.
And you can, I mean, they make a 26-inch board and a 32-inch board. But they're heavy. So if you can get away with a 26-inch board, but if you fish for other species, sometimes a 26-inch board is not going to do it. So,
I mean, Aaron, if I can be honest, it seems like if you're fishing for largemouth, a 26-inch board may not do it. I mean, you had what, a 1/4 inch left?
yeah, but that was a fish of a lifetime. I mean, if that becomes a problem,
he was running out of board.
Although I'm going to have to tell you, I was telling Evan backstage that I bought a 32-inch carbonite board. Number one, it's light and I can throw it right in my haul. But number two, if I happen to hook into a slunch that's bigger than 26 inches, I can pull on my 32-inch carbonite board.
Yeah, because I mean, you can only get 26 inches for your score if that's all you have.
Yeah, if that fish I caught was 27 inches, the most I could have got legally by the rules was 26 inches. Because there's no way to estimate the rest of it.
And every inch matters.
Every quarter inch matters.
Yeah. Johnny Milchling is asking, do I get this right when I read the post that the MAKBF is paying my Delaware Bass Nation this year?
Yes, if you want to be involved in Delaware Bass Nation, yes. If you were a member last year, you will get. There's a story behind that, Johnny, and we'll talk offline about it. But yes, that's correct.
Okay. Good deal. Man, anything else rules related? I don't want to keep folks longer than we need to.
Whatever you guys have questions on, I mean, I can. The pinch in the rule, I get it. You're better safe than sorry. What I was saying before too is if you need to use a hand to cover the fish to get it your first few pictures before, I always try to take a couple pictures without anything on the fish at all, no hand. But again, that's after I've secured good photos with a hand on there. It makes the judging easier for the judge too, where we were talking about same fish. If I can see the whole fish, it gives me a better opportunity to determine that it's not the same fish, because I'm able to match up scale patterns more if there's no hand there. But on the flip side of that, sometimes you need a hand to gently caress that fish into staying still on the board.
What about boat launches?
I cringe when I see people. I was gonna say I cringe when I see people with the catch board on their lap and the fish is on top and there's no netting or anything, and I cringe when I see that, because I take my pictures inside the gunnel. It's laying on the floor of the kayak, and I have the net right at the head. And I'm such a stickler. I don't even put my hand on the fish anymore. If you go look at Tourney X, you will not see my hand on the fish at all.
Yep.
It's possible.
I'm going to tell you that as a large person, sometimes I was taking pictures on my lap because I was too fat to lean over and get a good picture. It would take my breath away. So I would have to do it on my lap because I'm a little fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of my dad bod.
I like the fact that you can laugh at yourself. Hey man, I'm getting up there in age too. When you start dating and having wives and all that kind of stuff, you do pick up weight because you're just eating and going to restaurants and sitting around.
That's it.
It's gonna happen.
Look, when you're fat, happy, and in love, there's no reason to work out.
Motivation is down. But I just had one more question in regards to rules. When is it too late to protest something in a tournament? Like, what should be the cutoff? Is it 24 hours, 48 hours?
We do 24 hours. Most of the time, I'm going to tell you, I've been directing tournaments for 5 or 6 years. And I think I've had one protest in all of that time. So I think 24 hours is plenty of time where if you think somebody did something wrong, number one, if somebody did something wrong, you witnessed it on the water, I feel like you would know about it immediately because somebody's going to let you know. But if it's a judging issue and you're doing your job properly, then you usually don't run into any trouble with that.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Any other questions, Evan?
Evan, what were you talking about? Boat launches.
Oh yeah, so approved launches. Do you recommend having a list of approved launches for each fishery,
No,
or
I don't. Some of the national series have gone to that, but I feel like we're doing it on small enough bodies of water. And that's not even an accurate statement, because when you're talking about the Potomac, the limits are huge. 495 down to 301. That's a big. That's a lot of water. Same thing on the Upper Bay, but on the flip side of that, I feel like it's really angler responsibility to determine whether that launch is a public launch or not. I do think that's where the check-in and check-out feature on 20X comes in big, because you're required to check in and required to check out. So if you check in at the boat launch, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If somebody said, "Hey, this guy launched from here," and you didn't check in, it's tough to defend that. Do you understand what I mean? Where if you're, as an angler, doing the proper thing too, checking in at the launch and then checking out at the launch, it makes it easy to determine whether it's public or not.
Good advice.
yeah, I think my only other question would be, like, what are the most common things that you see from a rules perspective outside of catch, photo,
Cracked
release, where
mouth,
people get
cracked
them?
mouths, cracked
Okay.
mouths. That's 100% number one. Cracked mouths, and it's an automatic half-inch deduction, up to a 2-inch deduction, depending on how blatant the open mouth was. I would say that's number one. Second thing, identifier. You need to have a series approved identifier. For us, it's in our rules. It's on our webpage. You can print out a whole page of them. A series approved identifier is another big one. I get a lot of people that just write it on paper, write it on their hand, whatever the situation may be, but that's just not, it's not acceptable. And unfortunately, if you don't have an identifier and you're out on the water, there's really no way to rectify that. I feel terrible when somebody doesn't have an identifier, but at the end of the day, the angler is required to read the rules and understand them. So if it's the angler's responsibility. I have done as much as, because I don't fish the events that I'm directing, I have drove to a boat ramp with an identifier to meet anglers.
Wow.
To give them an identifier so that they can continue fishing for the day. Because I mean, it's not expensive, but it's not cheap to fish these tournaments, and it really would take the wind out of your sails as far as having a good time if you're out there, fishing competitively and you're not getting any points because you didn't have the identifier. How sickening.
Yeah.
One, I just had a thought when you said that. Blue Fox Gift, is that the name of it?
Yeah.
That is an excellent way to eliminate that problem. Just get the Blue Fox 10 or the Blue 10. Blue Fox 10. I can't remember the name.
Blue Fox Gifts is the website. You go there and you can choose it's a 10 identifier. You use I think it's bug spray you use to clean it. You use a permanent marker, you use a Sharpie, and then you can clean it off with bug spray and then use it for your next event. You can continue to use it over and over and over and over again. And that's one of the reasons that we don't change our identifier from year to year, because we do know that people buy those and they're not cheap. I mean, they're not expensive, but they're not cheap. So we would like it if, I don't even think they're that expensive. Yeah. If you want to, that way, if you want to continue to use a 10 identifier over a few years, now we won't keep it the same forever, but we're thinking 4 to 5 years is a good time frame, because the number changes, and that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Got a couple more questions or comments coming in. I think this is Carl Hegarty. He's saying, if we move locations, do we need to check out and then check back in?
Good question.
Yes, that would be ideal. When we have tournaments like this where there's multiple launches available, the Upper Bay, the Potomac, the Juniata, there's numerous launches available. If you launch from one location, and we're not boats here, we can't run from point A to point B. You got to unload your stuff, put it in the car, drive it to point, drive it to point B, and then unload. So if you do that, the best way to do it is to check out when you come off the water, and then check in when you go on the water. No matter how many times it does it, that's just the way to do it. That way, that it's also a safety thing. I know that, okay, he launched in Northeast on, this morning, but he checked out and launched again over in Perryville this afternoon. You know what I mean, or later that morning. So that way, if something happens where you haven't checked out at the end of the day, or you haven't come to the awards, or whatever the situation may be, we have somewhere to start our search.
Got it. Got another question in. This one's from Bunky. He's saying, what about bad weather and safety with immediate shutdown of fishing? So
the way we do it is, if there's lightning, we put out a push notification over Torniax immediately to seek shelter, stop fishing, and then we don't accept any fish that are possibly uploaded in between us putting out the push notification and us putting out a separate one saying you're okay to return back to fishing again. We have run into that in the past too. With
last year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's mostly lightning that we're concerned with. If we're on a big body of water, wind could be an issue, but mostly lightning. If it's raining, we're not too concerned about that. It's just rain.
What about wind? Like, what's too much wind? Because I've been on some windy tournaments, and
I think it really depends on the body of water and which direction the wind's blowing, to be honest with you. I think in a situation like the Potomac or the Upper Bay, there's enough coves and offshoots that you can get into to protect yourself from the wind. And at that point, it becomes angler responsibility not to go out on the flats when it's blowing 30 miles an hour. It's,
you got to be insane.
Well, you have to. Well, that's true, but you also have to know your ability, and you also have to know. You have to know your ability. You have to know, when it's safe for you and when it's not, because some people are better boaters than others, kayakers than others. And that makes a big difference. Like I said, our event coming up on the Juniata, there is it's moving water. It's just moving water everywhere. So you have to be 100% head on a swivel, paying attention to what you're doing. But there's guys that's what they fish, is the rivers, that flowing water. They know what they're doing. They do it every day. So it really comes down to ability and knowing your ability and knowing when it's time to, when safety becomes an issue.
For instance, if National Weather Association issues a small craft advisory, what's your take on that?
Again, it depends on the body of water and what's going on. I feel like if there's a small craft advisory, I'm trying to think of the way I want to word it.
I see the pain in your face. I see the pain.
If it's a small craft advisory, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going to have a tournament. How about that?
Okay.
I've
been in some blowout tide situations, and it was just, it gets up to 17 to 20. The morning starts off calm, but then throughout the day, all hell breaks loose. And you just got to figure it out and deal with it. But
agreed. And again, that goes back. I think that comes back to angler responsibility and knowing your ability. That and making sure you know the weather. So that's another thing when you're going into these tournaments. Make sure you know, hey, look, this afternoon is supposed to get windy. My spot is here. It's going to get blown out this afternoon. I need to fish it in the morning and then move on to somewhere that's a little more protected. It's very rare that wind would deter me from having a tournament unless it was extreme, to be honest, because there's so many places to go with a kayak that are protected.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is what is extreme to Aaron Fetterman. That's that's the threshold I'm trying to establish.
I know.
Aaron is
I have
dancing.
a.
He's doing a Sammy. He's tap dancing all over this question, man. Come on,
Hey,
Aaron.
got some light
I don't
feet.
have. I don't. The answer is it really depends on the body of water. It depends on what it's doing to that body of water and what direction it's going. I can't say that
Yeah,
30-mile-an-hour gust is a reason to cancel the tournament unless it's directly, let's say you're in a narrow body of water that runs north to south, but you're having an east to west wind. It's not really affecting the water that much. It's like for instance, Sandy Cooper, you get a 20-mile-an-hour wind on Sandy Cooper and it's crazy. So um, I think it just depends on the body of water and experience level.
that's fair enough.
When you call it, I mean, I can't say that if it's blowing this hard, this is when I would call it, because that's not how it would go. It would definitely be a game time decision.
Because calling it, you're gonna piss some. Well, you're gonna make.
Oh, for sure. Unfortunately, and I have found this out, that being the TD is definitely in most cases a thankless job. Nobody, unless you win money, in most cases, doesn't come up and be like, "Hey, thanks for running the tournament." You know what I mean? Or thanks for making the decisions you made in order to make this possible. It's just,
Right.
I do it because I love it. I do it because I love the community. I do it because I love giving other anglers opportunity to win big money.
And you have no control over Mother Nature.
You really don't
at all. And you got to look out for everybody's safety, because we don't want a situation where we got to call somebody's loved one or their relative. We want everybody to come home.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, we have to look out for everybody's safety. We have to look out for the guy that bought his kayak yesterday, just like we have to look out for the guy that's been doing it for 5 years. So,
with that in mind, PFDs, right? Of course, we know that you have to wear them.
For sure.
I've seen posts where I think guys are saying the PFD could be in the boat, but not on the angler. Is that
not in the tournament? In most state laws, that's the case, but not in any series that I fish or run. Okay. You need to have it on all of the time. If it's raining and you're taking your rain gear off or something like that, or if you're putting a sweatshirt on or taking a sweatshirt off, you can take it off for something like that, but you can't be actively fishing without a PFD on.
Yeah, I mean, I know I can only tread water for like 5 minutes, and that's really just me trying to survive. So my PFD is on me at all times.
That's an automatic DQ, right? Is that an automatic DQ? Is that an automatic disqualification?
100%, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. If somebody comes to me and they're like, "Hey, so and so is fishing without a PFD on," it's an automatic DQ. It's just not. It's a safety issue, and I'm becoming a professional at rolling my kayak, and it has saved me twice. So.
So what would be the top 2 or 3? Well, I would say top 5, if there are that many reasons to get disqualified.
Number 1 for sure is any kind of cheating. You would get DQ'd and banned, I would say. Number 2 would be not wearing a PFD. Number 3, I would say, is fishing early, or fishing not after, but trying to fish early.
Before the lines are in time.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That's cheating.
Right. It's for sure cheating. So, and sometimes it's unintentional, you know what I mean? But again, angler responsibility. You have to know when your launch times are. You have to know when your lines in times are. You have to know when your lines out times are, and you have to know when your photo submission deadline is. Those are the big ones. But I would say, I don't know if there's 5. I would say cheating, no PFD, and lines in early. I'm sure there's other reasons people would be DQ'd, but I would say it's more on a fish-to-fish basis than it is on a person basis. You really got to do something detrimental, I would say, to get DQ'd.
Okay. Cool.
Most people don't. I don't think most people come out to blatantly break rules and I just think it happens sometimes by accident, in which case you would be DQ.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
just real quick, Evan, I think this is an
Mhm.
excellent conversation, an excellent discussion. Maybe there's some anglers out there that heard some things tonight that they never thought of, that we opened their eyes to. I think Evan did a masterful job of explaining everything. We're going to circle back around to that win situation. But
You can, but my answer is the
I
same.
just throw him under the bus. Oh, my bad. Boom. Oh, my bad, man. But no, I mean, I think you did. I want to thank you for coming on, man, and really explaining the finer details of the rule and the meaning behind the rule and why they have that rule. I thought that was just masterful how you explained it. And I think you educated a lot of people today that needed it. So, and I learned.
No trouble, guys. No trouble. I mean, it's important that everybody be on the same page. First off and foremost, safety is the number one thing. You guys are probably going to have a lot of newer anglers to the kayak side, where catch photo release is going to be new to them. It does take practice. Matter of fact, I had an angler just this week text me and said that he was pre-fishing and was using the test app on 20X and was asking me some questions about that. So the fact that he was in there just trying to submit fish to figure out how the app works was great, because you'll run into a lot of those types of questions too. Well, how come I can't do this? Or why didn't this happen? I would say the biggest thing I run into with 20X is to make sure that your photos have location services turned on, and that 20X has location services turned on. I will tell you this, the way it works is, if it's not turned on and you take a picture on the water, it's going to give the location of where it was submitted. In other words, I'm still going to get a location, a GPS location, but if you don't have your permissions turned on, it's going to be where you submitted that picture. So if you catch a fish and submit it at the same time, it's not a big deal. If you catch a fish and you decide to submit it while you're driving to the next boat ramp and you're on I-95 headed north and there's no water around you, I'm going to have to DQ that fish, because I don't know if it was caught in legal water. So I would say that's probably the number one thing with the 20X app. Make sure that your location services, make sure that both your camera and the 20X app have location services, permissions for location services. And if you can, take the picture through the app itself. That's the best way.
Sometimes when I try, and I know Evan wants to wrap this up, but sometimes when I try to take that picture through the app, it won't put it into my catch or my live well, whatever it is. I can't remember all the little pockets you can go into the Journey X. So I'll take it and I'll save it. And there's another feature that you can use where you kind of set the fish aside, and then when you get better reception, then you can upload it. And
that's the live well.
That way.
When you take the picture and you submit it, it will give you the option to submit to live well or to submit to leaderboard. Yeah. You can submit to live well, and you don't need. I think it takes more service to submit to leaderboards, but it'll put it in your live well.
Yeah.
And then you can transfer it from your live well to the leaderboard when you have better service.
I utilized that a lot last year.
My only problem with taking the picture inside of the app, and it's not even a problem for anybody except for me, because I'm just silly, but when I take pictures, I use the words like take a picture or cheese, or your camera has words that you can use to take pictures. And that's how I do it. Instead of having to look and actually push the button on the phone, I use my voice activations. And if you take it through the app, they don't have that, so you have to use your finger to actually push the button for the picture button.
I never knew.
That's not that big of a deal.
Good to know. Good to know. Before guys start to hop off, we've had a strong crowd who've stuck with us this entire time. So I'm grateful for everybody watching. But Aaron, can you please let everyone know? I've included a link to where anglers can become members of MAKBF. That's not the right link. Yeah. So what was it? It said Chesapeake Real Masters.
Let me
but
guess.
it-
Let me guess. It was that Chesapeake Real Masters.
No, no. So what
God,
happened? That would have been terrible.
terrible.
But no. So it goes to MAKBF, but it shows our handle at the top. So I got confused for a sec. But yeah.
What's
So
that
there's a link there
meme
to
where
become a
the
member.
what's that meme? I'm sorry. What's that meme where the lady says "surprise, surprise"? You know that meme?
Surprise,
Seen
surprise.
That'd be terrible. But
Yeah,
but yeah. So
no, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, MAKBF on Instagram, MAKBF on Facebook. Well, actually, Mid Atlantic Kayak Bass Fishing Series on Facebook, MAKBF on Instagram, and you can find all of the rules and the identifier and how to become a member and our current member list and our Angler of the Year things. All are on www.makbf.com.
solid. You guys have 24 rookies this season. I'm one of them. Proud rookie.
That's right.
I tried
So
to
Yeah, you know what's funny is when we were discussing that, they were like, "Hold on, Carl's not a rookie," and I went, "No, why?" I had worded it improperly.
But no. So for prospective anglers who haven't purchased their MAKBF membership yet, like who's the ideal MAKBF member? What do they have to love? What do they have to be into?
Oh, fishing and community. That's our thing. Fishing and community. We really we tournament fish because a lot of people have that competitive personality. But at the end of the day, we like meeting up everybody at the awards. At the end of the day, to chat and BS and shake hands and kiss babies and do all the things. You know what I mean? We that's it for our leadership team. We like to interact with everybody. We like to have discussions. I mean, there's been 100 times where 2, 3, 4 hours after the tournament's over, we're sitting there chatting with people because it's just good conversation. It's it's a community. So anybody that loves fishing and loves to just enjoy other people, that's the perfect MAKBF member.
Perfect. We encourage you all to join MAKBF, and I mean, of course, we always want you to join CRMKBF as well. But yeah, I mean, I think that's primarily. I mean, we have some dates coming up. You guys have the Juniata. I think I'm saying that right.
Yep.
On the 6th.
Juniata.
And then Juniata. Okay. And then
I should go on there. I was not trying to pronounce that river.
and then y'all are on the Potomac for the joint 2-day on the 20th and the 21st.
Yep, and that's an MVKBA, a CRM, and the MAKBF. You got an opportunity to triple dip there and really make some coin.
That is one of my. We talked about this before we got on. That is one of my favorite. I always check that one off. It's highlighted on my calendar every year. The Potomac event with MVKBA, MS. I'm sorry, I almost said MISCA. Almost said that.
That's funny.
But MAKBF and it used to be KBF, but now we're involved in it, and it's kind of smooth how we just rolled in there, man. And hopefully we can make it big like it was before. But
I think to already have 50 plus for the Juniata, which is a river, and a lot of guys don't like fishing rivers because it's some work to fish a river. To have 50 plus already for that, I can't even imagine that the Potomac will pull less than 100. I mean, that with all three clubs, yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Yeah. I can't wait for that one. That one's gonna be super awesome.
I hope the weather cooperates and it's gonna be just another slugfest like last year.
Yes, there'll be no jinxings going on. It's gonna be great weather.
Right. Yeah. Does MAKBF do single day tournaments, or for 2 days is it just one?
All single day tournaments. So the Potomac will be 2 single days. Juniata's a single day. Conowingo's, they're all single days. Even if they're 2-day events, except for our TOC, that's the only actual 2-day event.
Okay, same here. So the winner on each of those days, with the anticipated number of anglers, could walk away with 4 figures. Potentially. Does that sound right?
Well, I mean, probably not quite. I would say high. Oh, for sure, 4 figures. Now that I'm thinking, yeah. We for the
If you
Juniata,
triple
our
dip.
first,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, for our Juniata event, due to our amazing sponsors, we're at for every one of our events, we're already $500 in the pot for every one of them.
That's
So even if there's 2 anglers, you already have $500 in the pot. So we're adding $500 to every pot for every event this year. So except for our team event, and our TOC is entry. There's no entry fee for our TOC, and it's a guaranteed $1,000 for first, $500 for second, $300 for third. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We're similar to you guys, where we're giving away $1,000 to our angler of the year. On top of that, they're getting the new Newport MK180 Pro, which is a 24 volt motor, and they're going to get a 24 volt battery from Bioenno Power. So they're basically going home with a brand new motor system ready to go. The leadership team at MAKBF has worked extremely hard. So I would say 4 figures. Yes, I was thinking 5 figures. It's going to be, I would say if we get with all 3, if somebody won all 3, I would say you're going to be scratching 5.
Wow. That's an event that I can't miss.
I mean, my boat, everything.
I mean, the only thing that would cause me to miss this tournament maybe was my grandma's birthday. And even then, I think she'd understand. You can't miss.
Yeah, she would. You could just go after her. It's all right.
Listen, if you cash a check, you can get her a nice gift.
That's right.
But it's been real. I mean, is there any stone unturned? Have we touched everything?
I think you guys did a great job.
Cool. Well, I hope this isn't the last time that we speak. Maybe we can do a mid-season check-in. But
I like it. Absolutely. Cool. I love it. Sounds like a great plan.
I think the anglers in this area. Go ahead, Aaron.
I just want to say, I wish you guys the best of luck this year. I think you're going to, you really done big things from, working from the ground up here. I see that champion sign champion check in the background. That's what we're out here for. So you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. I just wanted to say before we let you go that the anglers are winning tonight. The anglers are winning. They have so many different diverse fisheries that they can fish throughout all these clubs in this area. And it's just like a buffet. And the confluence of us joining forces and doing joint events is even better. I mean, for the angler, they got chances to make more money. So it's really an angler's delight this year, from what I can tell.
I agree with you 100%. That's it. Yeah, that's a huge. I mean, I would say anytime that we as a leadership team get into discussion, it's about the benefit of the angler. Because some of us disagree on some things. We have personal opinions about some things. We have personal opinions about all kinds of different fishing related things. But at the end of the day, we make a decision based on what we think is going to be best for the angler overall. And I think we stay true to that.
Well said.
Yeah. All right. I don't want to leave any comments unshared. So I think Bunky was asking if they can get food after tournaments again. And then there was also someone requesting the Dink Award.
Oh, yeah, we did. Oh, yeah. I would have to discuss it with the leadership team and find out what we have to give away for a little Dink Award, but I love that. We did it 2 years ago. We gave away actually Yakutat gift certificates for the smallest fish submitted. Now, you couldn't submit it through Torniacs because it would actually add it to your total. So, but we would take the pictures over Messenger, and you would have to take it with the identifier just like you would a regular tournament. And I'm telling you, people, cool. I mean, I think Trey Leach caught like a 6-inch largemouth bass on a spinnerbait one time, and it won. I think he won twice in 1 year for catching the smallest bass and get a yak attack there certificate. So I have to talk to them. We see we're getting pretty late in the year to try to set up new things. Maybe next year, but we'll see if we can make it something happen this year.
Good deal. Good deal. But that's all I got. I think it's a wrap.
And as far as food goes, we'll definitely work on something this year. We're gonna.
Stay tuned.
We have a team event in June that's on Delaware Bodies of Water. We're gonna definitely do something for that event.
Cool. All right.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Awesome show.
I agree, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Likewise. Thank you.
Glad to have you, man. Glad to have you.
I'll see y'all on the water.
Oh, for sure. Good luck this year, guys.
Thanks.
Likewise, Aaron.
Thanks.